Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, I got a very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Sure. My name is Henry Yoshida, entrepreneur and certified financial planner, and I am beaming in from Austin, Texas, so Central Texas, where it's still in the mid 70s here in late December.
Okay, and can you tell me about your past leading up into your present? That
Sure.
basically business or however you said personal business
Sure.
and
Yeah.
business.
It was an interesting upbringing for me. So, by looking at me, you wouldn't know this, but I'm a native Texan. So, I was born and raised in a suburb of Dallas, Texas called Garland, Texas. My parents ended up there. They are both Japanese, but they met in the United States and ended up in Garland by the time I was born. So, I always get a funny look from people when I tell people I'm a native Texan. So, I don't sound like it. I don't really have a Texas accent at all. And then I just don't look Texan in general. But, it was a great place to be. My parents had always, been in the restaurant industry, so that's typical of a lot of, I think, Asian American children of immigrants, where parents kind of get into the restaurant industry. And the one thing it does instill in you is a pretty good work ethic, and then a drive from your parents to do anything with your life other than working in a restaurant yourself. So those are kind of the directions I was given as a kid. So study hard and don't ever work in a restaurant. Was kind of the main thing, and I took that through to college and grad school and in business.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Go ahead. What was you
Yeah.
saying?
Oh, yeah. So no problem. But so I went that normal route that people know about, which was go to college and then figure out how to go get a job at a big company. I always liken this, if you've ever read the book, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. So you kind of go that route of the poor dad, which is you're typically told by your parents to study hard, get good grades, go to college, and then go get a job at a big corporation and so forth. So I did that part. And although they say that's the poor dad in the story, it's actually not such a bad way to grow up. But after 10 years in the corporate world, I did switch to becoming an entrepreneur. I started a consulting business doing the exact same thing I did in the corporate world at Merrill Lynch for 10 years, which was specializing in consulting with businesses on how to set up and structure and offer and pick investments for their employees in their retirement plans. So specifically 401k plans and other investment-based benefits plans. And after that, got tired of more of that services and professional financial business, and raised money from Silicon Valley venture capitalists and started a venture-backed platform called Honest Dollar. It was a gig economy digital wealth platform, and we sold that business, my co-founder and I, in 2016 to Goldman Sachs. And then I really liked the creating a technology platform because you could impact more. So in 2018, I started Rocket Dollar, the company I have today. And now our company, Rocket Dollar, is really simple. We let people open IRA accounts with us. So similar to what you could have at Fidelity or Merrill Lynch or Edward Jones, and keep the same tax treatment for your IRA accounts. But instead of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, our customers are able to buy private and alternative investments. So Kimberly, as we talked about, that could be anything from real estate to investing in private startup companies as an angel, or cryptocurrency, of which people do. And now that business started in 2018. We're at the end of 2025. We have customers all over the country. We roughly have about $12.1 billion of overall customer assets. And while we're at it, I'm the co-founder of Rocket Dollars. So I just wanted to give a shout out that today, December 17th, is actually my co-founder's birthday. So he's not on the show with me today. But anyway, I just want to say happy birthday to him. So he started Rocket Dollar with me. And today's his birthday. And he's younger than
Oh,
me.
happy
For a few months.
birthday.
Yeah. So for a few months, I'm not quite as much older than him. So this is always like a nice time for me to celebrate until my birthday in March.
Well, I'm
So
glad
that is
you.
me in a nutshell.
Okay, and tell me, I would love to know, for the audience that don't know, what's an IRA account?
Sir, IRAs, I give lots of talks on this. So I'm doing our normal monthly educational webinars. And this is just a broad-based educational webinar for Rocket Dollar. But IRA accounts in America have become a major savings tool. So if you work at a company, you probably know the term 401k. That is named after a section code in the tax code, section 401k subsection K. And that's what allows your company to give you a plan where you could save a portion of your salary. And then after that, or on your own, you're allowed to have an IRA, if you like America. These were all started in 1974, so they're roughly 50 old today as we speak. But IRA actually stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement. And folks can put money into this account. There's a limit every year of what you can contribute. And any money you put in, you can invest that money with providers. If you have an accountability, you can buy stock and bonds. If you have that account, that IRA account at Rocket Dollar, you can purchase real estate or invest in a private company. And the big benefit, and the reason why people would do this, is that any money in an IRA, whatever you invest in, gets to grow without you paying taxes until you take money out of the account. And the catch is that to have this ability to not pay taxes for potentially decades, you can't take the money out of the account until you're 59 and a half or older. Why they came up with this random 59 and a half, I don't know, but that's the number. And people, when you invest in these accounts and don't pay taxes, if you start one, let's say 30 years old, and you hold that account for 30 years until you're 59 and a half, can grow significantly more than if you just had it in an account where you had to pay taxes every year on the gains. So that's what an IRA is.
I have a question. So
Sure.
I have stocks, right? But what happened was I had to deduct some of my stocks, or as y'all say, sell some of my stocks because an emergency came up. Now, when it
Wow.
comes time for taxes, does that mean I would have to pay extra taxes, or does that mean that, even the money I hold in there, that the stocks I hold in there, that will be held plus the money that I took out would, like, how does that work? I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm
So
still
you want to make
elementary.
sure. Yeah. So you want to make sure that when you save in retirement accounts, you need to be certain that you're not going to access that money. Really, even in the case of an emergency. So if we back up, like the certified financial planner in me would tell folks that before you set aside money for investment purposes and long-term saving, you should probably have what's literally what you just referred to as money in case of an emergency happens. So those are typically an emergency savings fund. And the good rule of thumb, there's rule of thumbs for lots of things in life. For me, the two areas I'm most passionate about are probably health, wellness, and fitness, and then finance on the other side. So a rule of thumb in fitness might be that just try to eat a good amount of protein and don't eat too many calories, right? Like that's just a rule of thumb. And there's probably numbers that say that you should eat 2,000 calories or so per day, not 4,000. And a rule of thumb in finance, as it relates to emergency savings, might be that you want to make sure that before you do any investing, that you have maybe set aside 3 months of your salary in an emergency savings account. So this is an accessible bank account. So not the checking account that you use every day. You don't want to make it too easy for you to get to the money. In other words, you want to be able to get to it, like you said, but you don't want to have to sell stocks or get a tax penalty. So, someone might look at I actually recommend to people to use a separate bank from the bank you use for your everyday checking that you don't log into every day, because it's too easy if you see it to say, oh, Christmas is coming up. My emergency is that I got to get my mother-in-law a gift, or she's going to get really mad and hate me even more than she does now. As an example, that's not an emergency. An emergency is that you're hurt and you can't work for 2 months, and you're not going to have the same amount of income coming in, so you need to have this emergency savings account, and then you go and access it at this other bank, and there it's got 3 months of your salary, and you could do more. You could have 6 or 12, and depending on how much you keep, it might actually be determined mostly by, if you keep 3 months, it's because maybe you are a dual income family. You and your spouse both have a job and they're relatively stable. If you keep 6 months, it might be because you're a single income household. And if you lose your job or some temporary ability to earn income, you're the primary breadwinner, whether you're single or you have a family, you're the only one working, then you might need a little bit more. And then 12 months might be, quite frankly, Kimberly, like if you're just a solo entrepreneur, like, you're a one-person business, for example, like a digital creator, you might want to have a goal set aside to try to put away 12 months of it. So that way, if an emergency comes up, whether that's injury, you can't earn money for a little bit, water heater goes out and you need to all of a sudden make a replacement, instead of you selling stocks and taking a penalty and paying taxes, or charging it on a credit card, which might even be worse at current rates of 25% interest or more, you could just cash flow that particular thing from your emergency savings fund. And then again, set aside some money every paycheck for the next few months and get that back up to 3, 6, 9, or 12 months or whatever that may be. That's a good rule of thumb. So once you get that established, let's say that's part A, then you maybe think about doing IRAs and 401ks and so forth. But you just got to give yourself a little bit of a safety net, and again, it's appropriately called emergency fund for a reason, to avoid exactly the situation you told me you just did at one point in your life.
Take me down your Rocket Dollar journey, from start to finish, how you built Rocket Dollar.
Well, it was, at this point, I'd been in the financial services industry, concentrating and learning and being a thought leader in the retirement and tax advantage account space. And after selling the business that was a small digital wealth platform for gig economy workers, because gig economy workers didn't have a big company to have investment opportunities from in the form of 401k. There was another opportunity that I really just saw out in the landscape in 2018, and I thought about it from 16, 17, and 18, but I didn't launch the company until 18, was that the US stock market was really mostly concentrated in the largest 500 publicly traded companies, right? So you've maybe heard this term. It's called S&P 500. And most advisors, most folks on social media, if they're giving general financial advice, might say that, hey, all you got to do is put money into a fund that invests in the 500 largest companies in the United States, and you're good to go, and you just hold it for 10, 20, 30 years, and that's it. But it's become pretty concentrated. And I just recognized that there was this world where a lot of investments that are done by very, very wealthy people or institutions. And when I say wealthy, let's just say that threshold is people who have $100 million or more. So this is not just your neighbor who's got a nice car in the neighborhood. This is like wealthy people, $100 million, 9-figure liquid net worths. And that could be either institutions, investment firms, or individuals or above. And those people were not just putting away 5% of their paycheck into the top 500 stocks. They were investing in private companies. They were buying real estate. They were buying land. They were doing all sorts of private investments that weren't available on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. And, I started to recognize that regular Americans really don't invest the way that the rich do. And it wasn't because they didn't have access. So over time, these opportunities have become more and more available to the average American individual. So private investments are now available on platforms that you could buy. The issue was more that the average American person trying to get an emergency savings fund set up and work day to day just didn't have a big chunk of money lying around. Private investments usually required a bigger buy-in. And, what I realized was that, well, there's this pool in America of retirement accounts. And when I started this business in 2018, Kimberly, all retirement accounts in the United States, it's going to be mind blowing for you. But the amount of money in those accounts then was roughly, I think, $30 trillion. In 2025, collectively, United States retirement accounts now hold close to $46 trillion. They do the measurements in June of each year. So June of 2025 numbers. Almost $46 trillion in retirement accounts. And of that, 10 trillion are in 401ks and 17 trillion are in IRAs. So really the vast majority of it. And those accounts are not held by $100 million net worth, CEOs and business owners and really, really rich people and celebrities. They were held by regular people like us in IRAs. So creating Rocket Dollar was an idea that it would allow Americans to tap into the money that they already had in these accounts to then go invest in things beyond stocks and bonds. So that's actually the name Rocket Dollar, which was the idea that I wanted to connote was that a rocket would allow you to go further into different places than you can go on a bicycle or a car or just by running or walking there. So that was kind of the creation of the name rocketdollar.com for us in the business. Was we're going to help Americans take their money further and farther than they've ever been able to go into things that they couldn't previously invest in, private investments. And we just facilitate the platform. Our customers are the ones who decide if they want to go buy a rental property on the other side of the town they live in. If they maybe want to do, you talked about this as well, that you just started getting into this, and potentially maybe providing a small check for an entrepreneur who's raising, let's say, $250,000 to get their small startup business going, and you decided to become an investor in that business and gave them $10,000 or $20,000 to do that. And we just allow our customers to do that using IRA funds instead of using cash out of pocket, because cash out of pocket is not very tax advantageous and is usually something that is kind of earmarked already for day-to-day living, your emergency fund, and so forth, and more easily accessible cash. So that's how the business started, was just thinking that more and more people, the wealthy, were investing in private and alternative investments. Average American people weren't really allowed to do it. And it wasn't because they didn't have the capability. It's because they didn't have the capital. And the capital held by the average American person is usually held in IRAs and 401ks.
How would someone with $300 a month to put towards stocks, IRAs, and private companies, how would they be able to start investing in those and opening those doors with
Sure.
just 300?
Well, yeah. And truth be told, probably if they only had 300. So let me go put my certified financial planner hat back on, which is what we did for the emergency savings fund. So after you've done that part, then typically it makes sense for people to do small amounts on a monthly basis. That's what you're referring to is called dollar cost averaging, into something broadly diversified like that stock market. So that'd probably be the next step. But you would do that through your maybe company 401k plan or an IRA at a regular provider. It's when you start going into private investments, it's because you're now overly concentrated in having your own personal money in the stock market. And you might feel uncomfortable having a large amount of all of your money in there. So I would actually probably use this sort of easy rule of thumb that threshold might actually be right at $100,000. So once you accumulate 100,000, and when I say these numbers, people think, when you give it broadly on a show like yours, people think that's a large number. But just remember that if you were to start, like if you make the average American household income in the United States, which is roughly $72,000 a year, that's household income, and you contribute as a household 10% of that money, $7,200, into your company's retirement plan, starting at the age of 20. And if you can't start at the age of 20, you might be 25. Start at 25. Start at 30. If you're 35, you start at 35. Obviously, just you get started. But let's just say that you start even at 35 or 40. Over the course of 10 years, if you were to put away $7,200, the stock market on average returns about 8 to 10% per year. That's $7,200 per year for 10 years. After 10 years, and an 8 to 10% return will actually be worth roughly 120 to 160,000, depending on your exact returns. Even though you only put in $70,000, it's going to double essentially. Okay, and at which point, once you do that, if all of that 120 to 160,000 is invested in stocks, now you might want to consider doing something that's not just all stocks, like maybe investing $10,000 into a couple of private companies, for example, as a way to diversify, and or a way to maybe potentially invest in something that has a chance for higher return. We've all heard these stories that people invested in XYZ or ABC company early when it first became public or when it was private, and that turned into the best investment they ever made. Now, if that investment doesn't pan out and the company goes away, they still have $140,000 in the stock market, just kind of going steady Eddie at 8 to 10% per year. So the answer to your question is that if you're just starting out, you wouldn't start out doing private investments. You would build your emergency fund first, and then build your foundation in a broadly diversified stock market fund. Typically, best, most efficient way would be through your company's 401k and then IRAs. If you switch jobs, you can roll this and hold it in your own name in an IRA, because I wouldn't expect that people just stay at the same job for 10 years. You may go to 3 jobs in 10 years, but every time make sure that you're putting away 10%. If that's 72,000 income, that's 7,200. 10 years of that, that's $72,000 that you put in. Maybe the company matches at an additional like half of that amount. So you got another 36 from the company. Then you got another 36 in growth over those 10 years, just in the general stock market, which if you're living in the US, hopefully you're betting that the US is just going to grow and not contract over the next 10 years. Otherwise, you'd be listening to a different show thinking about how to live in another country as an expat and so forth. But
take me down the stock market, your stock market, what you actually purchase and why you purchase. Do you aim high to get higher revenue, or do you aim low and just let it sit?
So I am basic, but I aim for stocks. So specifically what I buy, and I do this right now in my account. So I have a set dollar amount that goes into IRAs and a brokerage account, and then accounts I have set up for my children, which are set up for their college savings. But it goes into the exact same investment, which is, it's a symbol. You can look it up on your iPhone, in the little stocks app on your Android or your Apple stocks app. And all I do is I purchase a ticker symbol called VTI. So Victor Tango Indigo, VTI. And that is the symbol for the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index
Knew
Fund.
it was bad. I had a feeling, but I didn't want to say nothing.
Yeah. So VTI is available, and just so you know, for your audience, that no matter where you are in your financial journey, VTI can be purchased now at places like Fidelity. It could be purchased at Robinhood. It could be purchased at Cash App, even at as little as, I think you can purchase $1 at a time if you wanted to. Now, one whole share of VTI actually trades at about $450, $400 to $500. But with technology now, you could purchase a fraction of a share in any dollar amount increment. So that could be $1, $10. So every month, and I'm no different than anyone else in America, in those kids' college accounts, they're getting like their $150 a month towards their college savings. And then my older daughter is 15. So she actually gets hers and an additional one just that goes to her in the form of allowance. And she gets $20 of allowance 2 times a month, for doing her chores and obviously just going to school and so forth at her age. But she has a program, my daughter does, to where $15 of the 20 goes into VTI, and then she has the other 5 twice a month that accumulates as spending cash.
Does Fidelity or Charles and Schwab have this option to do that?
My daughter's account is at Fidelity. You should know too, since I'm giving out specific things here. So again, I'm a guy expert in this space. Run a business, manage money for lots of people, and I just told you and your audience that for the most part, my personal investments, I just basically go into VTI, my stock investments. I mean, I obviously buy private things, but that's because I have that foundation. Now, my older daughter, her account that she does that I give her the allowance in is a youth account at Fidelity. It's literally called Fidelity Youth Account. And at the age of 13, the kid can have an account at 13 in their name that gives them a debit card, allows the parent to transfer money into it in any interval you want, in any amount. And then also inside the account, the child can manipulate the app to decide how much of that money that gets put in there gets put into investments like VTI or stocks. She could buy individual stocks if she wants to. And then the rest you could actually use on a debit card. So it's the same account, but you can hold investments and you could use a debit card against the cash part of it.
Well said. And where do you see yourself going in the future with the Rocket Dollar?
Well, with Rocket Dollar, my job and my mission is I kind of view it as I'm in a position to help Americans retire. So again, after you've done these foundational things, so think of it as like building the foundation of your home, right? You obviously got to start with leveling the dirt. Then you're going to have to lay a concrete foundation. Then you're going to have to build the house on top of that and then cover that with a roof and then outfit the outside with masonry, stone, brick, whatever that may be, or siding, and then obviously outfit the inside. So if I think about this, that leveling out the dirt and making sure that the soil is correct and stable before you put the concrete on there, that leveling out the dirt, think of that as your emergency savings fund. The concrete block that gets put, the slab foundation, think of that as like building, accumulating money in your stock portfolio until you get to this $100,000 level. And I'm not the only person who said 100,000. Warren Buffett's 50-year partner. We started his company with him. So everyone knows the name Warren Buffett. What they don't know is he's had the same business partner for 55 years. They worked together very closely. And Charlie Munger was his name. He died at the age of 99 2 years ago. But him and Warren Buffett had started that business together. And Warren Buffett's worth $100 billion. Charlie was his business partner, also close to tens of billions of dollars when he passed away. But he used to always say that if you get to the point in life where you've saved up 100,000, then all of a sudden you free yourself up to do other things. So to get back to my analogy, that concrete foundation is your $100,000 base. And then anything you do after that, building up the house, whether you build a 2-story house, a 3-story house, 1-story, 3-car garage, and so forth, that's your choice. Like once you built that foundation, you can do whatever you like on top of that foundation. And that foundation on top of that could include private investments, more stocks and bonds, invest in a business, start a business separate from your day job if you work for a major corporation. A lot of people do that. The best story maybe ever of that is that J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series of books, was a elementary school teacher who then became a multi-billionaire because she wrote Harry Potter stories on the side. I don't think she teaches anymore, but you get the point, right? I mean, she had a job during the day, and she ended up finding something else that not only was like good as a side income thing, it just became ridiculously good, and not only changed her life, but probably lives of children all over the world at this point, with that series of books. But my point is that the dirt is the emergency savings fund. The concrete slab foundation is like you getting your base, your stocks, bonds, your basic stuff, like putting money in every month using an account at Fidelity or Charles Schwab, like you mentioned, going into a low-cost index fund like I do, VTI, Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. It costs 3 cents per $10,000 to own that fund in expenses and cost to you. So 3 pennies per $10,000 that you have in that account per year that you paid it for them to manage that fund. Very easy to do. And once you get to that 100,000 base, how you build your house or what you build on top of that concrete slab, that is up to you. That could be made up with a rocket dollar IRA where you invest in properties or invest in companies or crypto. Maybe you continue in your journey and you invest in more and more stocks and bonds. Maybe the other one is you have a little bit of disposable income and you start to invest in a business that you do on the side, or something else that really interests you. How you build that house on top of a good foundation, is really up to the individual to choose. But that's the way I explain it to people. And for me, I do it all in my case, for my investments, my stock investments are at Fidelity. My kids' accounts are there. I invest in a Vanguard fund. And then separately, I have a rocket dollar IRA, of which I use to purchase rental investment property. And then since I am a tech entrepreneur, I do invest in some tech companies as an angel as well.
Well said. And how can the people reach you? You have a lot to talk about. How could the people reach you?
Yeah. So easiest way, the business itself is pretty simple. So we're at rocketdollar.com. So for those people here in your audience who have the level dirt, the concrete foundation, and looking to decide how they want to build their house or expand on the house they have on top of that great foundation, they can find us there and learn about the Rocket Dollar accounts. And that's where we do IRAs that with the same tax treatment as Fidelity and Schwab, but instead of stocks and bonds, they can buy private and alternative investments. And then as well, if you want to learn a little bit more about me personally, probably my biggest, social profiles are Instagram. I go under the handle Fit Finance Henry there. So in that case, I talk a lot about both the combination of the fitness wellness side of my life as well as the finance side of my life. So again, my passion as a certified financial planner and the stuff I've shared today is really based on what everyone in America should be doing. Rocket Dollar is when you get those good foundations built under you, it's an option for you. And what I think my mission is going to be is that in 10 years from now, more and more Americans, or millions and more, trillions of dollars, will be in private investments held by individual Americans. Whereas right now, 99% of that private investment money is done by individuals and institutions who have $100 million or more only. These are your college endowment funds, your retirement systems for the municipal states, giant corporations and wealthy individuals. And 100 million is the richest person probably in your subdivision that you just don't know has got $100 million, but still lives somewhere in your neighborhood, up to like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk.
Wow.
You know, like
Wow.
those are people. And my guess is that they don't just do like $50 a month into VTI.
Yeah.
You know,
Tell
there's a
me,
reason why they keep going up in net
one
worth.
last thing. You,
Sure.
you met the girl or the woman, should I say, from 23andMe, right? Can you tell me a little bit about
Ancestry.
Ancestry.com? Yes, tell me about that. Sorry.
Well, you know, she was just through the syndicate. So I remember having a chance and noticing that this is who she was. And I just run those tests on myself, my brother, to find out that we were very heavily Japanese. So I was kind of enthralled. It was nice for me as an Asian American person to find out she was Asian American. Oddly enough, you mentioned 23andMe, who's their competitor. So that's like the Pepsi and Coke battle there. But 23andMe was actually also the founder and CEO was a woman also. So a little bit of trivia there, just so you know. The company on the 23andMe side isn't doing well. I think they're actually going through like a recapitalization or bankruptcy structure, but it was also female founded as well. And if I remember correctly, and you know, since this will be on the internet, the woman who's the CEO and founder there, I think that woman's sister is actually one of the early, if not the first CEO of YouTube.
Oh
Well.
my God, that
Yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah, and the reason why I know that these daughters are, you know, very successful, and I pay attention to these things, and I'll tell you as we leave why. So those children, the two Wojcicki, their last name is Wojcicki. Don't ask me to spell it, but it's pronounced Wojcicki. Susan and Ann Wojcicki. One YouTube executive, early Google employee, ended up running YouTube. The other one, 23andMe, as well as other businesses, but I guess they were considered that the daughters were so successful that their mother is actually a lifelong teacher in the Silicon Valley, Palo Alto area. And she has some very famous parenting books about how to raise successful children. Obviously, she did pretty well with her daughters. And then for me, above my head here, I know they're cut out with the camera there, but I'm a man with two daughters, so 15 and 9. So I think a lot about you know, even as a man, women's empowerment and sort of opportunities for them. And the two things on my wall there, the one in the middle is my certification for being a CFP. The left and the right are the proclamations of that particular year that I got these. They're signed by the President of the United States. One's for Mother's Day and the other one's for Women's History Month. Are the two that I happen to have.
Which president?
So they were from 1999, given to me as gifts. So it was second
Bush?
term of Clinton. So second
Clinton.
Clinton.
Okay.
99.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I know you can't see. Maybe I'll raise it up a little bit.
Yeah,
See, but,
raise it up.
yeah.
That's so cool.
The little blur in the background, but it just happens that the two that I received. So and maybe I thought it was a reason. I was a guy destined to have two daughters. Two daughters half the time, so I'm single. But the Women's History Month and Mother's Day. So.
Well, it was such a pleasure having you on the show. Like, thank you so much. Stay on the line. You guys, like, thank you for joining. I hope y'all learned something. Take care, be safe, and I will see y'all another time. Bye.
Yeah.